Yay, the fender's on. Yeah.
Garage time.
This week's work is very similar to last week. I'm still prepping the inner fenders and the tub and the trunk area to get its epoxy primer sprayed on, followed by some undercoating. So all the details of, simulating spot welds and cleaning the welds, preparing it for paint is what I'm doing this week. So the process is, wire brush till the metal's shiny, clean it with the wax and grease remover, wait for the wax and grease remover to flash off, which is like 30 minutes, and then sand it with 80 grit, wax and grease remover again, and then brush on some epoxy primer. Now I am going to be spraying epoxy primer, but the areas that have been raw metal for a long time and the very delicate areas like the seams, I'm trying to use the brush to flow the epoxy primer into the seams, over the welds, make sure that it is fully covered and saturated in epoxy primer. I've also done my technique, as I did last week, where I am putting epoxy primer on the back sides. So through the hidden cavities, I'm snaking brushes, and all that tedious work is continuing. I'm not going to show you, 10-minute long sessions of the same old thing. This video could be a little shorter than last week, but progress is being made. Okay, now I decided to weld this bracket back in. This is for the hood support struts, and it's unlikely that I'm going to use the struts, but I had this piece and it was removed when I did all the repair work to this general area. So I put it back in, simulated the spot welds. This metal is going to be sanded back and a little bit of body work done here because, there's weld seams in here where I had to repair all this metal because it was damaged in the accident. Okay, now this is the section that I'm spending a little more time on because this has all been repaired. The tire here had been pushed back into this closing panel and inner fender area. So this has all been, pulled out and fixed, but all the welding and some of the seams just require a little bit more attention as I get ready to get it all painted. I also had a chance to get under the car and touch up some of those structural improvements I made to the chassis. Those were in bare metal, and I want to get those treated as soon as possible. Here's the rear anti-roll bar mounts that were boxed in and improved for strength. Now it's been treated with epoxy primer, so I can try to blend in the undercoating. Right here, these are the plates I added to the torsion bar. Here are the gusseting plates that are really there to support the coilover shocks that will be added to the car in the back here. It's just work that needs to be done. I always struggle myself with, is it a race car or is it something that's, really well done and built with high quality? I'm trying to do a little bit of both. It's just in my nature. But I do struggle with it. I do want to get this car done, and these details just take time. But my philosophy is that now is the time to do it, because even if I get it done and I regret not taking the details in like the trunk area, then that's just a setback, and it possibly means do it again. Or, it depends on the person. Sometimes I can forget about those sort of, defects, and sometimes I can't. Yes, the fender is on, but it's probably not the last time it's going to be installed. I still need to do the undercoating, and I've prepped the inner fender and the tub for undercoating, but I haven't sprayed it yet, and The fender will come off when I do the undercoating, but it is in the final position, so I can start doing some block sanding on this fender. Okay, unfortunately, I didn't mix the filler correctly and it dried a little too quick as I was spreading it. So this section right here in particular is a little bit cheesy. I didn't get it to spread out the way I wanted. There's a couple bare spots. So unfortunately, most of this is gonna come all the way off back down to the primer. I'll have to reapply it, I'm sure, because there's definitely some spots missing. And then I did put some guide coat on this side. It's a dry guide coat. That's gonna help me, since this was already sanded, it's gonna help me figure out, you know, where I'm sanding relative between the new and the old, and how to level it across this gap here. So we'll hope for the best. Okay, right here, if you look closely, you can see where the guide coat is doing its job. So it's showing scratches, which is probably the 80 grit, 36 grit scratches from before. And I was unable to keep sanding this down because I ran into metal right here. Now I did tap some of this down with a plastic kind of pointy tool, but it's still pretty high. So I either have to shrink this back down or build this side up. So I'm probably gonna do a combination of both, but I'm not gonna hammer because it's about 11 o'clock at night right now. A little bit of metal coming through here, but generally these two panels are starting to line up. So the elevation's right, the gap is looking, you know, pretty good. It's a little uneven, need to do some maintenance there on the bottom, but in general, down here on the bottom, it's looking really good. I'm getting the hang of this, except for spreading the filler when it's mixed incorrectly. But I'm starting to get the hang of how to read the sanding marks, and the guide coat certainly helps. So thank you to those who suggest using the guide coat as early as possible, even on the filler stages. I think it's really wise. I am now doing live streams and a question answer session on Sundays, noon Pacific Standard Time. We're going over, you know, your car, any questions you might have. This project, we're going over your project. You know, what are you stuck in your project? What do you need encouragement with? Is a cool time to just hang out and talk about what you guys want to talk about. So check it out. We'll see you on Sunday.